so sad now that you went to the bush with someone, you played soccer with someone, you shared childhood memories with someone, but you can't recognize them in the street, right? Because of how drugs have taken over their lives.
Yeah. People will say to me, can I have a job? And I'll say, oh, what did you study? So don't worry, I will do anything. You know how that breaks your heart? Somebody who's gone to university and studied a BSc would say to you, I will do anything, you know? Men need guidance, you know? Nobody is born successful. You've got to learn and you've got to make mistakes.
You're a young person and you're not a politician in South Africa. You literally have to politic your way out of anything.
The richest place in South Africa is not the gold mines. Unfortunately, it's our graveyard because that's where the dreams of people have gone to die with them. You know? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another exciting episode of Man in the Arena. You all know me, Dermish Dyer, jumping out of planes, climbing mountains, flying helicopters, getting involved, doing things. And today we've got a gentleman who is literally climbing all the ladders you can think of. And we had a discussion, as we always do, before we came on air. Fascinating. He's known as Buds, but his official name in his green ID book or card is?
Bohlale.
There we go.
Bohlale Buzani.
So, this fairy tale story, tell us, where are you from?
So, Mr. D, I'm from Buzani, which is, I like to say that it's the second biggest township in South Africa actually, geographically, but population-wise, we're not that high. However, it is a landscape that has brought me up and sort of forged me to become the man I am today.
It's a fascinating area. I don't like the word township. It's got negative connotations for me. You know, did you know NU?
Yeah,
actually
native unit.
Stands for native unit. We need to get rid of that now. But anyway, driving past Umdunsani, because I stay in King Williamstown, drive past and you just see the lights flashing and flickering and you can feel the pulse of the area. I've been to one or two, I think a place called Jeff's.
Yeah, Jeff's place, I actually stay by there.
There we go. So, I mean, if you look at the amount of world-class boxers that come out of Umdunsani, the creative juices from musicians and directors and producers, and it's just, how does growing up in Umdunsani, how did that shape you?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we do need to understand that Tanzania's main purpose of existence was for it to be a labor reserve. So it was basically off the back of Mercedes-Benz settling on the East Bank and then people having to be removed into that township. So them being there, it was more of a lot of people, our parents wanted like big houses, but obviously, I mean, there's a lot of foreign houses there. You can see in terms of like how the houses are structured. But more so, what leads to that is then, I think for me, growing up in Tanzania, I grew up, resenting the place, right? I grew up, asking myself, why do I have to grow up in such a place? Whereas I'll go to school and Johnny, Craig, they come from posh houses and all of that. But then I guess that's what made me inquisitive to understand the background story and to understand that, go into the history of Tanzania and see how, though people were living in such a state of a place, but like that gave them opportunity to be more creative. That gave them opportunity to build business, right? Because one of the millionaires that I know from Tanzania, which is the late Tatu Matiaka, in 1990 when they burnt the buildings at Highway. He literally apparently had like R1 million in cash. And that was someone who had started, by selling oranges and all of that, but now, has the legacy of having buildings. So I think what I'm trying to say is that also just even introspecting at home, my grandfather was a member of Sanko. So he was very active in politics, also with the governing party. But more so, you then realize how important it is to cherish community.
Absolutely.
You guys don't have much resources, but how can you guys make things work together? So my grandfather opened up a soccer club for me. It was actually called Kaiser, you can imagine.
So you played soccer as a youth?
Yeah, I played soccer.
You're still youth, but you played,
yeah, so as a young boy, I used to play soccer.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting part of my life because my grandfather didn't want me chopping and changing clubs, right? So he was like, no, you know what, let me just open a club. There's no club within our 10-kilometer radius or
Yeah,
5-kilometer radius. So I can open up a club and then just bring your friends and people around,
Yeah.
and then we'll sort of merge with other clubs as we go, right? So it was interesting now, because now you'd find that there's different demographics. There's Makindana, like, who lives in the shacks or informal dwellings. There is Usiba, like another friend of mine, Umswengo. He came from Kunubi and we went to Sobon together. So he would literally spend weekends at home.
Yeah.
Now there was that nice, diverse, sort of backgrounds of people. We'd eat together, shower together, sort of live together.
That's what I like about these townships, if we're going to call it that
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
If you stay in a city, you stay in a complex because it's so dangerous. You hardly speak to your neighbors. But whereas Umdansani, Dimbaza, Ginsberg,
Yeah.
it's a melting pot of ideas.
Zelicha.
And quite frankly, sometimes you feel safer there than you do walking down Oxford Street.
Absolutely. So I think that's really, especially at the youth, at the prime youth, where drugs are not an issue. You guys are just growing up together with these diverse backgrounds. I think there's a lot of beauty with regards to that, which is something that we don't see nowadays, actually, which is really sad. And it saddens me because there are people that we call Amapara, and I'm like, this is a name that you're giving people. This person was given a name by their parents.
Yeah, what does this name mean? Sorry?
Amapara. So it's basically, it comes from the word paranoid.
Okay.
So, like, because they don't sleep, and it's people that are addicted to these drugs, which is like, we call it ituf, but it's tick.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the people, it's so sad now that you went to the bush with someone, you played soccer with someone, you shared childhood memories with someone, but you can't recognize them in the street, right? Because of how drugs have taken over their lives.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that this person was never the best soccer player. They were. Literally, this person, you'd wake them up. They didn't go to practice the whole week, but this person would score like 5 goals in a soccer match. So you'd see that was a caliber of a person that should be playing in TV or anything, but there's no resources.
Yeah.
Basically, this person hasn't even traveled outside of East London their whole life. They've been stuck in that township community. So I think why I alluded to that was because back then, I feel like it was better for us because we had, there was sports in schools, there was sports, Now you look at our fields, there's nothing.
Here's a controversial point, and you don't have to question, you don't have to answer it. Do you think Umdansani was better off 40 years ago than it is now?
Yeah.
I mean, heaven forbid, we never ever want to go back to apartheid. Obviously, but I mean,
so as to speak, so because when I speak to my mentors and I speak to people that have really been around, they will say that every household used to have someone employed. There used to be Fort Jackson, there used to be all of these industrial zones where people were actually making teaspoons, spoons, all of that. And I believe that was under the rulership of Usebe, And there were genuine business people who were getting access to finance. For example, a branch manager was able to give you a loan as a business person, you get me? Like
absolutely. I see exactly where you're coming from because I used to be heavily involved in a jeans manufacturing company called China Garment Manufacturers based in Dimbaza. And we had about 5,000 people working for us.
Imagine.
And what a pleasure to create jobs, generational opportunities.
Absolutely.
But now if you go to Dimbaza, everything's gone. At least the homeland governments looked after the people, created industry which creates hope. And I like what you said there about jobs because as most of you know, I used to be the chief whip of the DA. I'm no longer in politics, although I'm still heavily involved in the discussions of politics. But I got involved in this game because it was my dream, it's my mandate that I want at least one person in each house in South Africa to have a job. And that's what we're missing now because you go to Umdansani, people have got dreams, they've got aspirations, and slowly those dreams die because people will say to me, can I have a job? And I'll say, oh, well, what did you study? She said, don't worry, I will do anything. You know how that breaks your heart? Somebody who's gone to university and studied a BSc would say to you, I will do anything.
Absolutely.
What about this people who don't know Umdansani really well, but their ears will prick up and they'll think boxing. Well, how does boxing in Umdansani, how did that come about?
So, I mean, I'm not heavily versed in terms of, that boxing history, but I do know how important boxing is, and how celebrated it is, in terms of just understanding that fiber. We have Mqaji, we have Makepula, like we've got a lot of people that you see today, or Kamnita, you see them also working for the BCMM now.
Yes.
Those are people that really, you know, were icons and beacons of hope.
Absolutely.
But more so, you'd find that it was, there was no management in terms of how funds were managed and all of that. So when I would look at it today, though, I mean, we're happy to have Nonchinga, you know, who's second time winning world champion now, coming from Tanzania, you know. But more so, Zolani Tete, you know, we've had all these people. But the sad part is that, like, we don't see ecosystem. Like, it's not like in America where a boxer like Floyd Mayweather or, you know, whoever is in their ranks will literally go into a stream of businesses after that.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems like you become a boxer, fantastic boxer from Umdansani.
Yeah.
But once you're finished, nobody cares about you. I mean, they're probably world-class boxers who are unemployed. Or
a champion. We've got world champions that are unemployed.
Yeah,
like
world champions.
World champions, in Tanzania that are currently unemployed. And it's because we don't have an ecosystem that says, okay, now, instead of you going to be a boxing coach, or instead of you going opening your own boxing gym, what are other avenues that are there in terms of financial advising now? So I think that also speaks to, yes, you can have promoters in the boxing ecosystem, but what about proper managers that are ensuring that the holistic, you know, sort of well-being of this person is being taken care of? Because when that person comes back into the township and they've lost everything, what does that do to the hope of a young kid growing up, you know, trying to be a boxer? Will they have hope? Will they see their lives, you know, changing because of boxing?
Yeah, like most people growing up, I used to watch the Rocky movies.
Yeah.
And then I actually went to my first boxing match in Umdansani. And to see it live, I think it's one of the most beautiful sports in the world. There's no teammates to help you. It's just you and another man. And I mean, they had female boxers. It's unbelievable. The strength, the stamina to go for 15 rounds of 3 minutes each. So I take it you're not a boxer.
Yeah, I'm not.
But you box in the business arena.
Absolutely. But more so, before we get there, my sister is the president of Mdabo, which is the Tanzania Boxing Association. And one of the challenges that they would get, even like, there's no sponsorship, there's no funding that goes towards there. There's a kid who was supposed to travel to Cameroon as part of the Olympics. He didn't have underwear.
Oh, that's... Say that again?
This kid was supposed to travel to Cameroon to go and fight a boxing match, and as part of the SA team, but he didn't have underwear. She had to go and get this kid underwear. Now that's someone who's going to compete, and it shows you now, like, as you were saying, even talking in terms of politics, it's really about how you allocate the resources at the right places. You know, how is a kid going to compete at, you know, national level at 16 years old, and now not have underwear to actually. You know, what sort of undignified life is that?
I always said I'm not interested in equal outcome. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a plumber. Not everybody's going to be a world-class boxer.
The basics.
We want equality of opportunity, electricity, good schools, good nutrition, underwear. So what you do with that opportunity, it's up to you.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
But you always get the impression there's a bubbling, quiet confidence through Umdansani. And we just need to unlock it.
You know? So what I do, so in 2021, I founded a non-governmental organization called Kasi Conversations. So basically, the essence of Kasi Conversations is like, it was birthed out of the need that I saw that after I came back from the Mandela Washington Fellowship, we had to have like a focus project.
Let's just quickly off-ramp. Nelson Mandela Fellowship, what is that?
So there's a flagship project that was, so Barack Obama in 2010, it was like, we need to link Africans together and sort of forge alliance with the Americans as well. So he came up with what is called YALI, the Young African Leaders Initiative. So part of YALI, there's a flagship program which is called the Mandela Washington Fellowship. So there's about 500 leaders throughout Africa, aged 25 to 35, that meet together in Washington, D.C., and then you get an opportunity to attend a university in America. So there's 3 tracks. So you have your civic leadership track, which is someone in civil society. Then you get your business track, which is obviously business management toolkits, etc. And then you get public management.
And which track did you?
I actually did public management,
public
though
management.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But I'm really passionate in terms
And
of...
then, how long were you there for?
I was there for about 5 weeks.
5 weeks,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, if you can remember back, what struck you the most about being in the United States? Was it your first time in the United States?
Yeah, it was my first time.
What struck you when you got off at New York, Washington?
Yeah, we actually got off at Dallas and then we connected, yeah.
And then what was kind of thoughts going through your head?
So the
a
first
guy
thing
from,
that happened...
from Umdansani in
Yeah.
the United States, what went through your mind?
America. So when I got there, I was still using my card,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, okay, let me just tell it was my business card, so let me just buy McDonald's.
Yeah.
So I go and I buy a Big Mac, and I see the Big Mac costs about 250 rand.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, this is crazy because
Yeah.
the Big Mac is like 60 rand back home.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can welcome to America. So yeah, we got to DC first, and it was humid. You see a lot of Teslas, but it was just an environment that was inspiring.
Yeah.
It was really inspiring. Even the quality of the people that are there, you know. Yeah, so if anything, my first awe moment was the fact that, you know, it was a really inspiring environment.
Talk about Washington, D.C. now.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So like literally people go to sleep around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. By 4 o'clock in the morning, cars are already on the road.
It's a political city.
Yeah.
It's a political city.
Yeah. But on the contrary though, America is not the America we see on
Yeah,
TV.
exactly, yeah.
Especially in DC, because you find that we were staying at the Marriott and there's people living in tents, literally 3 kilometers away from the White House. And you're like, inequality exists everywhere. And it's yes, as much as in South Africa, it's so exacerbated by the fact that you can be in Sandton and there's a road and it's Alexandria. You can literally see shacks and see the spatial inequality. I think because of the design of apartheid. But when you get to DC and you get to Maryland, like if you go, when you're in DC and they actually showed us the bad side, you know, and it was quite tormenting to see that there's these parts of America. And I was also blessed enough to go to the South, Mississippi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we went to Jackson State and we actually went to the HBCU there.
Yeah.
But more so, their Bundus, like what we call Ilali, you know, the villages, theirs are worse. Like,
Really? Worse?
We were feeling sad as Africans, you know, when we were in Mississippi to see how could, people that are from America living this way. So it's really, it was contrasting.
You know, each country has a particular flavor. So if you look at the United States, movies and culture portrayed as skyscrapers and private jets and corporateness. Europe is green and lush, and you know, Italy is culture. And when they portray us, sometimes it's wildlife and the big five, and then you show people of, hey, this is Cape Town, this is Joburg. It's like, wow.
They're like, wow, really? So also that's something that we also got with regards to other African leaders, right? So they would be like, oh no, you guys in South Africa, you think you're the United States of Africa, you know? And I think it wasn't that, you know, but it's more of people from America will feel more comfortable in South Africa than another country in Africa because our sort of design in terms of infrastructure is similar.
I mean, there's shopping centers, there's our banking system, English language. But I mean, that's not to take away from amazing countries like Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya.
Who are industrialized heavy, who have beautiful architecture and infrastructure, you know, and I think that really speaks to them. You know, so long as we are not telling our story, someone else will tell it in their framework.
Absolutely.
You know? And so with regards to that, you know, I think when it comes to Western countries, they've really had this paternal approach when it comes to Africa. You know, I think there's a book called Dead Aid by Dambisa Mboyo. She actually speaks about the trillions of dollars that have been spent into Africa, but have really just impoverished Africa instead of empowering it.
Now, I'll be blunt about it. I think the Western countries have plundered our continent, plundered South Africa, and when there's nothing left, they'll go back. And they'll want to control us now. Look, there's good and bad in every situation. They're not the bad guys. We're not the good guys. It's a flux. It's a mix. So you came back, and
so when I came back, I had to come back and. So now I these monies have been spent on me to go to America.
Yeah.
I can't just come back now
Yeah.
and just chill. So I had a focus project, which was basically based on me as an entrepreneur and like just looking at the ecosystem and being frustrated to say that it's more than just giving someone funding or a loan or a grant or equipment to work.
There's got to be follow-up.
It's follow up. It's the ecosystem. It's mentorship. It's coaching.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
financial literacy.
I like the fact that you've mentioned a couple of times mentorship and coaching. It's so important. I'm going to be biased now. It's so important from a man's point of view.
Yeah.
Have a coach. Have a priest. Have a business coach.
Absolutely.
Have a sports coach. Have a gym coach. Men need guidance.
Absolutely.
You know, nobody's born successful. You've got to learn and you've got to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And you know, to attribute to that fact, like most of us men did not have father figures. Or if we did, our father was probably working his your butt off to make sure that he's got something to put on the table. So you'll find that now it's very important what you're saying, to have these different spheres of mentorship and coaching in your life. I think
statistically speaking, a child in the United States is more likely to end up in prison if they don't have a father figure.
Imagine,
And in South Africa, all the political parties do their manifestos, and we'll touch on Action SA and whatnot. But there's two words that I think we are lacking: family values.
Absolutely, because that's where it starts. That's where it starts. You can't have a community without family and the individual and its well-being. Because also it's the individual's well-being first that contributes to the family sort of values, and also just the well-being of the family.
I'm old school. I believe in a man and a woman, masculine energy, feminine energy. I'm not a feminist. I don't subscribe to this changing genders and all of that, but there's a man and there's a woman, and we have different roles and we work great together. So you're in Umdansan, you've come back, you've started this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the project, well, at the time it was a project, but now it's like an organization, Skasi Conversations. So I was basically, I'd go to Ekoneni or JF's place or, because I also don't like that thing of being detached from your reality. So, because obviously, the moment you come from America, people are like, hey, we saw in your papers, okay, now you say, it's like, no, just because you saw me on the paper, doesn't mean that...
You didn't come back with an accent, did you?
Nah, not even. It doesn't mean that I'm not a person. My grandfather used to say, even with English, leave it at the doorstep at Selborne College. The moment you exit the gate at Selborne, when you get to the township, speak closer.
I like that.
For a very long time, they thought I couldn't speak English. So I get back and like people would come to me like, hey bro, I've got this idea. Okay, great. Maybe, it's a social setting. So I'd be like, okay, on Monday or Tuesday, like touch me, on the phone, here's my number, speak to me. Monday, Tuesday comes, this person's probably hanging, or besides hanging...
What is hanging?
Hanging is like a hangover.
A hangover.
Yeah,
same from a guy who doesn't drink. I've never been drunk. Because I fly helicopters, I climb mountains over the world. For me, drinking has zero ROI, but that's just me.
But it's the reality. And it's some of the things that we need to acknowledge, that most of young people today are either abusing alcohol or abusing drugs because they are pathetic in terms of the system or where we found ourselves today. Because you'll find that like 14 years ago, I always say, even when I'm talking to people, that we were watching the World Cup. And you can imagine how hopeful you were, right?
Yes.
But now it's like we weren't in the steering wheel and we allowed someone else to drive this car. It's now 14 years later and I feel like my life has gone to a waste. As Bohlale, I'm in a privileged position to sort of say no to certain things. But as someone who is living in an environment that is constantly showing this, like, in Tanzania, recently Savannah put a big billboard as you exit, which had a Savannah, sort of, what's this?
It's dry, but you can drink it.
Yeah, Savannah advertisement. And parents went on a tangent on Facebook saying that, like, how could you literally, we are crying of our kids. this thing that happened even in Yobeni,
Yeah, absolutely. That about 2 years ago, 21 kids
passed away and they died, and...
I was in council at that time. I was a public rep. And we pushed hard for answers, but even to this day, there's no answers.
Absolutely.
It's like shocking.
The sad part, I was actually supplying the meat.
Really?
Yeah, they're one of our clients. But more so, it's like, now those are, so I was actually coming to this thing of alcohol, because I've also not, like just not drank for the longest time for my reasons. And you know, I know the impact and how great that is, and I wish that for everyone else, right? But it's to say that now we need to sort of we need to acknowledge the destitute that young people are finding themselves in.
Absolutely.
I can give you even a practical example. I'm not justifying that as a means of a lifestyle for people, but one of the reasons why we have Kasi conversations is these healing spaces. I feel like Dr. Miles Monroe says when purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable, right?
Absolutely.
So when you utilize something and not understand why you're doing it, right, it will abuse you and it will lead to that. So even with alcohol, you'll find that someone got an internship. Straight graduated, got an internship, you're going to get 5,000 Rand for 12 months. After 12 months, that needs to be recycled because this person was not even considered in terms of their life, in terms of the policy when it was made. Now 12 months pass, they need to now stop, go back home. With that 5,000 Rand, they were commuting to work, they were putting food on the table. Now they don't have money to put food on the table, they need to rely on whatever income at home that's taking place, maybe 350 from the president. My question is, who takes care of that psychosocial, you know, sort of impact that takes on that person? Because that person's life will not be the same again.
Absolutely. They've seen where they could go had the situation been better.
Absolutely. You know? And who doesn't want to live a life where you're constantly in a progressive mode?
Absolutely.
Now,
you know, I always say it's about generational opportunities and generational change. First generation, they walked to school barefoot. Second generation got shoes. Third generation, a bicycle. Fourth generation, their dad takes them in a car. That's how you move up. That's how you move up. And for some reason, our country, we just seem to have not only stagnated at a certain place, at certain sectors, we've come backwards. And it's like all this hope, all this dream. So I say, the richest place in South Africa is not the gold mines. Unfortunately, it's our graveyard because that's where the dreams of people have gone to die with them. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, do you think someone who's 40 would literally drink Bohlale and at their sane senses? No, if you speak to that person, you ask them, that person will tell you that, you know, I am regretful of the opportunities that I couldn't take. I'm regretful, or, you know, like it's because yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. Even with regards to that, now someone would call me, or I would follow up maybe during the week and be like, okay, you spoke to me about your idea over the weekend. Where are you now in terms of that? They wouldn't have the sense of urgency. They wouldn't have, you know. So I was like, you know what? We need to have a space, which is Kasi Conversations, where we really speak about our issues as black people.
Okay.
You know? I've been recipient of funding, you know, and I recall even before I got that funding, I was broke for three months before I got the funding. I had applied, it took a year for the government to give me that access to the finance and also that, you know, with the business opportunity I was executing during lockdown, COVID-19, which was 2020, I got the funding only in 2022. It's like a year later. And those are things also that we really don't think of now. When this person gets this funding, how is their psychosocial, like you know, so it's sort of those mechanisms that I wanted to be there for entrepreneurs, to be like, okay.
So is this a workshop that you have? Is it a podcast? It's guys sit around?
So it's more of like seminars that we have. So what we do is we gather, ekoneni or whatever chisanyama that we gather, and we literally just talk in terms of our problems that we face as young people in business, young people.
It's for men?
It's for everyone.
Everybody
generally. So you can be an entrepreneur or be a professional. We come and we just, you know, create a space for us to just vent, right? But more than venting, we need to come up with sort of solutions for the township economy. So it's like we buy from each other. So if I'm looking for someone to cut my hair, I won't be looking for, there's a barber shop that my brother and I run also by Ekonen. So people will be like, they cut their hair at the barber shop, and then we will also, when I want someone to cut my grass at home, I'll call someone, you know.
That's how you build a community. That's how
absolutely
you want to keep the money swirling around in Buzani.
Us, you know.
And for a long time, these big corporations didn't look at the township economy as something. Now they're starting to realize.
That's why
hold
you've got
on,
your McDonald's going in.
Hold on, there's something.
You know what my mentor used to do? I was privileged enough to have a mentor. He'd take me to a highway, right? And he'd ask me, well, how much do you think this debonair is turning over? And I'd be like, I don't know. you know. We're like, no, they're turning over 2 million a month. Turnover, you know. Where's this money coming from? So like people are coming outside. What you see though is big cars coming into the township in the morning, and then the big cars coming outside of the township in the evening.
Yeah.
So that's where you will see that there is money that's flowing. There is money in the township, but it's just that we haven't realized that, or we've been made to not see that, right?
You know, folks, one of the things about a podcast is I don't like it when we just talk. That talk must lead to action.
Yeah.
So if you're watching and you're listening and you want to get involved, you know, the details are below. Find out how you can sponsor, how you can help, because in life, the more you give, the better off you are.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. So it speaks also, I think, generally, if I would speak about my background, I never envisioned myself as a business person at first. I envisioned myself as someone who wanted to solve problems in my community. So I dropped out 2017 at NMU. I was studying quantity surveying there. And I was stagnant in terms of just, you know, inspiration. And I was doing the course for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
And I guess that showed because I didn't fail. But it was a matter of I was apathetic towards the course.
The passion wasn't there. I mean, I can
there.
hear it in your voice.
It was very conventional. I was like, I'm not going to do bills of quantities, you know, for the next 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I think the game-changing moment was when a guy came at a seminar and he was like, in 10 years' time, quantity surveyors will be obsolete because there will be 3D printing. And I was like, oh, I like innovation, you know. Yeah. So I dropped out 2017.
How did your family take that?
I was actually having a family dinner yesterday and we were laughing at my late mom, how she responded to that. She was like, you don't know what you're doing. You're crazy. You're nuts. You probably end up like everyone else in the township. You know, because education for her was investment, and I can understand.
Well, we get it. We get it.
Yeah, she was coming from, but they didn't take it well because they didn't understand why now you're going to run a community project that's going to fundraise money to give children school shoes.
Yes.
Whereas but I was like, I'm trying to play catch up here. You know, I got the privileged side of the stick.
Absolutely.
Now I'm just trying to make a difference where I come from. You know, and I feel alive when I'm doing this, right? When I go into boardrooms and I ask like the malls to contribute or pick and pay and they hear what we're trying to do, I feel alive, you know, and
your life is shaped in moments of decision. You know, I mean, had you sat back 10 years ago and you thought, okay, let me play it safe, let me be a quantity surveyor, your life would have been unrecognizable to the inspiring person.
Absolutely. Actually, like I was in Joburg last week, and I was actually staying with a friend after I'd done with the program, just for a few days before I came back. And I used to go to varsity with him. You know, I'm happy like for him and where he is, but more so I was like, I would be miserable. You know, I would be miserable. You know, I'll be miserable if I'd made that decision because it is not part of the fiber of who I am. I'm grateful that I had the privilege to make that decision because at least I dropped out knowing that I would have food on the table. I had a grandmother and mother who was going to give me. So I wouldn't say to someone, I'll go and drop out, you know. I'd say stick it through. My advice
we're not advocating to drop out of school.
Absolutely.
Bill Gates or Elon Musk or something like that. You still got to put in the time.
Because even after that, you know, I had to go and educate myself. So I had to go and do entrepreneurship courses. I had to go and, you know, sort of do these leadership institutes that I, you know. So now if you'd see, and project management that I did through UP as well, through another program.
The point is, if you stop growing, if you stop learning, you're going to get eaten. You have to lean into the future. The moment you lean back from the future, it's going to eat you. And I feel, and I know South Africans, we are leaning into the future, but we're just not getting the support from the government.
The key word there is called pivot, right? You need to know when to pivot. So pivoting can be rebranding, pivoting can be, you know, you accessing a future skill that you know will be very paramount, because at the end of the day, it is survival of the fittest, right? If no one's going to employ you, no one's going to want to be your business partner if you're not cutting edge. Like
Absolutely.
You need to have that compelling thing about you that someone's like, you know what, I want to be in a room that person is in. And the only way to get that is by you know, reading books, you acquiring a different skill, you building your acumen in terms of what you do.
The books you read,
Yeah.
and the people you associate yourself with, to a large extent, will determine where you go in 10 years' time.
Absolutely.
You read the wrong stuff, you hang out with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
In the movies, you see all the gym guys hanging together,
Yeah.
and you see all the jocks and all the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
life works.
yeah,
You
yeah. You
hang
need to
around.
find your tribe.
Absolutely.
People that
absolutely.
speak your language.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's okay. So being someone who's experienced failure and loss in my life, it's very also important. Like when you experience failure, to look at the people you have around you to give you advice, right? And that's why I'm saying in terms of the township as well, that when someone experiences that sort of adversity and backlog in terms of life, I wanted to be in a certain position in my life. I'm not there now, and when I see my friends, I see them progressing. I don't see my life being better. You must look at the people that will be there to give you advice.
Absolutely.
Because, my friend, there will be someone there offering you Savannah or offering you beer, right? Now, because that's the best thing that they know as therapy, right?
It's their therapy.
Do
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying? And now you will end up, sort of being consumed, or even narcotics, drugs. You will end up now coping in a manner that you were not supposed to cope, and then that will end up, moving you even 10 steps.
Once you make one or two bad decisions, you get into the habit of making a couple more bad decisions, and then before you know it, each day is worse than the last, and then there's a difference between a hole and a grave. It's just the depth of how deep you go. Surround yourself, like most men, we've had challenging times in our life. This is why I said before we started, we must practice stoic virtue. We must be kind, we must be caring, but we must be strong individuals who make decisions based on logic and not just emotions.
So here's another thing, that probably preludes to instant gratification, and just really, as a man, I've got I've got principles that I would say, I share with my friends as well, in terms of just the culture of how you do things. You can't be a man waking up and watching Facebook videos and stories the whole day.
That's not real. That's not
in
real.
the morning. Do you understand? All you do is you're feeding yourself content. What that does is that you only have 100%. I listen to a lot of Robin Sharma, and he speaks about cognitive bandwidth, that your attention span for the day can only be a certain spectrum. Now, if you give 30% of your spectrum in terms of content, just getting external content, which is dogma, in your morning, you will lose creative juices throughout the day.
Absolutely. Right? It's true.
And now, when as a man you aren't able to create, you lose your sort of I would say
you've got a certain amount of energy in the battery, and
it's depleted. And the more you are a consumer as a man, the more you become weak just in terms of your fiber. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, women do play a certain role. You become undesirable because even your purpose, you've got a less desire towards your purpose. You've got no ambition, and now you just become someone who talks about people and things that don't really materialize.
It's ironic, since we want people to watch the podcast, and people watch it, but sometimes you got to switch off the laptop. Sometimes you got to switch off the cell phone.
Absolutely.
Read a book. Go and climb a mountain. Be a man. Just find your inner core. And now, around the world, politicians are failing us because populism is on the rise.
Absolutely.
Because people feel like they're not being heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you what is your role with Rise Mzansi?
So with Rise Mzansi, my role, I'm basically the provincial coordinator. So I'm part of the PLC. So our structure is just, we've got the provincial convener who convenes the whole province, and then I serve as the coordinator now to just make sure that everything logistically, administratively is just going smoothly in the province. But more so, before that, I was a volunteer, within Rise Mzansi and a supporter. And more so, what I loved about the approach of the leadership, we called our NLC, which is the National Leadership, National Leadership Collective, right? That's because we really believe in servant leadership and just, leadership not being a thing of hierarchy. Yes, in terms of protocol.
Absolutely, there needs to be some hierarchy because you're an organization.
We're an organization. But in terms of just, yesterday we had the privilege of having our national leader in Tanzania, but it was more internally with the field organizers and volunteers. And he just arrived alone. he was chilled and he was accessible, you know.
Not 10 bodyguards, 20 cars, blue light brigade, all this.
Do you understand myself? And you know what I'm saying? And I mean, yes, one would argue, okay, you guys are not in government, yes, we don't know how that would look. But what I'm trying to say is that even with the field organizers and volunteers, they feel connected with him, you know. They feel, you know, they feel his energy, they resonate with sort of who he is as a person. But I don't want to make this about a person politics, because it's not that. But more so, the first time I encountered the leadership of Rise Mzansi, it was the first town hall in Tanzania. And they wanted to facilitate a town hall, and I happened to be a facilitator that was there, and I was obviously a Rise Mzansi supporter. So I facilitated the discussions between them and the community members. And just the humility and just, you know, how they were really asking people questions, you know, really sort of asking people their issues. But more than asking people their issues, they were like, Anizo Tumatina, you guys are not going to send us to Parliament, or no, you guys are going to send yourselves. So the work starts now. The moment that you start identifying a problem, you need to take responsibility. And responsibility is the ability to respond, meaning everybody has the ability to respond. So now you just need to take initiative from where you are, then Rise Mzansi will then meet you where you are. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, but look, it's a youthful party. You've got some great ideas.
Yeah.
The political landscape now is a minefield.
Absolutely.
Everybody's promising everything.
Absolutely.
The ANC is on its knees.
Absolutely.
And we see where it goes. But I firmly believe it's not the government's job to create jobs. It's the government's job to create an
enabling environment.
Enabling environment, and that's so it can allow people like me and you to thrive. And the podcast crew, you know, they Imonti Cinematic Unit, they're doing a great job. They're doing all of this, and you know, we want to come up as a province. We want to come up as a metro. You know.
So I think then what that speaks to is also just the collective patriotic spirit that we all need to have. Like I've got friends in the EFF, I've got friends in the DA as well, as we mentioned, like Anat. Now you find that now the question really is, how do we make South Africa better? So let's not talk, you know, the color of your, I'm not here to converse for Rise Mzansi, you know. Let's not talk about the color of your t-shirt, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the issues that people are facing, and let's talk about how we can go out of this, you know, sort of pit that we find ourselves in, because it is a pit at the end of the day.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I travel all around the world, all over the world, and I'm biased. This is my beautiful country. And this is my beautiful province. As we said, when I can find a daily dispatch somewhere, I'm happy. I'm happy. And we have got so much opportunities and the potential to build our province. We just need the right vision and the right people to guide us.
No, absolutely. So those are also one of the things that like stand out. You're saying we're a youthful party. We actually are youthful. That's one of the things that we stand on. That we really have a young, you know, sort of dynamic force of leadership. And you'll find that these are credible leaders, but not within the mainstream political field. These are people that have been playing on the outside, but are like now, no, we actually want to be part of the change. Because some things need policy to be changed. Like
for sure.
Absolutely, you know. Interestingly enough, like in Tanzania, there's a pool. You know, it's been constructed for the past 10 years.
Since 2012, when I dabbled in politics, in 2016 when I became a city councillor, every year we would see the pictures and the reports of the pool's going to get built, the pool's going to get built.
Exactly. Now, you know, what we're telling the people is to say, what's this? What do you call it? What do you call that document you need from the court in order for you to access?
I know what you talk, but people know what you're about, the Information Act.
Sure. Yes.
Access to Information Act.
Yes. So basically, if you've got someone represented you at legislature and that you've elected as the people or nominated to be there as your public representative, that person can get access to the documentation with regards to the project that was being built for so many years. The reason why people aren't accessing that information now, that they have to first go to court, or they don't even know that they have to go to court and what document is required for that, right? And now, why I mentioned that is because you'd find that if there was the right leadership and the right thinking, you would think that once you complete that pool in record time, There's access for children to be able to not go to the shebeens and the taverns. There's access for jobs for people to be lifesavers. There's access for people to have business to maintain that facility, right? So I think it speaks to what you're saying, that now with no basic service delivery, because with government needs to have basic service delivery.
That's their mandate.
That's their mandate.
Local government.
So without that, you can't really have a functioning society. What you do need now, you need people that are not going to think the way that has been thought for the past 10 years, because clearly the way that we've been thinking as a government for the past 10 years has not been progressive, because we are seeing the detriment that we find ourselves in.
Einstein said the definition of insanity.
Doing the same
thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
I mean, learning how to swim. Such a beautiful skill that every child should have.
It's not even it should be. I was speaking to another lady yesterday, and she basically has a rehabilitation center. Still, the government, she's fighting with the government because Public Works owns basic property right to the schools. And you don't even understand why there's no cohesion between Public Works and the Department of Education. Now she's saying the school has been Valentized. I want to convert this into a rehabilitation center, and she's not getting it. She's got equipment for a bakery also just to make it self-sustainable. But most of the conversation I was having with her was that she was saying that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. There are certain 3 life skills that children are supposed to have ingrained within the education system. She said 1, the ability to swim. The ability to swim, 1. 2, she was saying the ability to speak sign language.
The ability to speak sign language.
Sign language,
That's
yeah.
interesting. That's
interesting. So she was saying sign language should be a life skill. So so that's how we'll make sure that people aren't left behind. So sign language from grade 1, you should be able to.
Really, that's interesting.
It should be within the curriculum. And then 3, she said a driver's license.
I think that's fantastic.
So one of those 3 things, she was like, it's a basic necessity that it should be there. So interestingly, that's why I brought it up. Right?
So you've done this and you've done that, and I feel if people like you and me and the youngsters behind the camera, if we were to run the country, things would be much better.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and the beauty of that, I mean, this is what is called intergenerational dialogue, right?
Make me sound old now.
No, but you look old.
This is a distinguished gentleman.
But so it's very important. I think these are conversations that are not being held amongst the old and the young. We're not saying we want to kick old people
No, of
out.
course not.
We need the institutional memory. We need the experience.
But at the same time, we need the
implementing
youthful
force.
kick up the backside. We are here to set this rocket.
And we're not willing to set. One thing about us as young people that I know, and I'm a strong advocate for young people just accessing spaces and just really, cementing themselves to say that, and not just saying that on podcasts, but like practicalizing it, creating spaces for us. If Ulino Kutla calls me and he's like, hey, listen, there's something that we're doing here, I want you to be a part. I must make sure that the same way I'd answer a call from the Premier of the Eastern Cape, I must take his call seriously, right? Because when I see him, I must see him as the force that he is, because he's a young person doing something actively involved. Now, I think, though, the sort of framework that old people look at us at, it's like young people liabilities, young people they jovial, like they just want a party. No. We are assets, and I've seen this many times, and the thing is, we're not just being given the chance. For example, we should envision a South Africa where someone can say they're a CEO at 21 years old. Why is it taking place in Silicon Valley and not taking place here?
Yeah. I personally believe there should be a cut-off age for politicians.
Absolutely.
People sitting in legislature and parliament were there before Facebook started, before WhatsApp started. As the world moves, you need to move, otherwise you lose perspective.
Yeah.
So we've got to move with the time. You adapt or you die. You adapt or you die.
So I think it also comes to us as young people in the conversations that we have and in the mobilization that takes place, right? Way beyond like color of the t-shirt politics, but you can't say you're a young person and you're not a politician in South Africa. You literally have to politic your way out of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We are highly politicized. Everything in our country is either racial or politicized or some
Absolutely,
nonsense,
you know,
yeah.
because if you don't have connections, if you speak to a young person on the ground, they'll tell you, I can't achieve the dreams that I want to
Yeah.
achieve because I'm not connected. I can't do the
Yeah.
things that I want to do because I don't know so and so. So it's like,
Yeah.
now how can we, the ones who are conscious and opened up, take that sort of responsibility?
Yeah. So you've got a lot on your plate. It's a big plate, and you've
Yeah,
got a
it
lot
really
on your plate.
is.
What do you do to relax?
Me, to
Do
relax.
you relax?
Yeah, no, I do relax. So, what I do to relax is spend time with family. the
Family is
people that I
important.
love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm telling this to everybody watching.
Yeah.
Your family is important, eh?
So I spend time with family and the people that I love. That's how I relax.
Are you still
until
playing
now.
soccer?
I'm not active. in
Not
terms of
active.
sport,
Have you taken over the
yeah.
club?
Well, it had to. My grandfather passed away in 2011.
Sorry to
but
hear
we
that.
do have a club that I'm a board of director at
Okay.
called Yeko FC.
Okay.
It's doing amazing. Like it's owned by a young person as well. So that's actually how I'm sort of giving back or living the dream within the
Yeah.
dream through
Yeah.
that club.
No, I think that's great. And favorite food?
Favorite food? Pasta. Made
Pasta.
by my grandmother. Yeah.
Do you like sushi?
No.
I took some of the guys behind the camera for
No?
sushi. You can see they're smiling.
They
It's not for
didn't-
them. They said, black people, no. Sushi we don't do. It's got to be cooked. It's got to be well done.
No, I don't like sushi.
Favorite place you visited?
Favorite place I've visited? I would say it's... that's actually... Yeah.
It's too many.
No. I'm just... when you said favorite place, I was like, there is a place that really I visited.
Yeah.
I think Port St. John's.
Port St. John's,
Yeah,
beautiful
Port
place
St.
up the
John's
coast
in
here. Hey?
Tata.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's...
The further you go up the wild coast, the more it looks like time has stood still.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful.
Yeah,
if
true.
World War III
Yeah.
were to start, we in South Africa, Hogsback, Port St. John's, King Williamstown, Eastern,
Yeah.
we'd just see the missiles flying over and we'd be sort of,
Absolutely.
we've got this beautiful, the trans sky.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, hey? Absolutely. No, I love that. So, in fact, you've touched on everything that we said about what man in the arena is. It's a poem
my
by
favorite,
there we go.
Favorite quote.
Yeah, there we go.
Roosevelt. Yeah.
There we go, Teddy Roosevelt, President of the United States. You don't want to be a witness to life. You want to be in the game of life with blood, sweat, and tears. So everybody that's watching, I hope you feel inspired. I hope you feel like you can do something. Your details are going to be at the bottom of the page or somewhere on the web page. If you've got an idea, if you're in Buzani, wherever you are, if you want to get involved, get involved. Be the man in the arena, be the woman in the arena, be the person in the arena. Let's be unashamedly positive about our country and about our world. Folks, hope you had a great day. Enjoy the podcast, and there's a lot more coming. Have a good one.